Welcome everyone to the pre-med panel. We have our panelists and I'll have them introduce themselves. So first up we have Shi Tang. So Shi, if you want, you can go ahead and talk about where you went to school, where you got your degrees, where you are currently. And I thought just for fun, how have you been staying sane during this quarantine?
Hi everyone, I'm Shi. I'm originally from China. I was born and raised there. Spent my first 17 years there. When I came to the United States, I actually spent a whole year studying English, and I actually went to the community college with Julian and Sarah in College of the Desert in Palm Desert. Then I transferred to UC Berkeley and got my BA degree in MCB, which is molecular and cell biology. So now I'm in UCSD School of Medicine. I'm a fourth year medical student. And last question. Oh, who who said I'm saying? No, just kidding. During this time, fortunately, I have got a lot of free time. The fourth year in medical school is relatively relaxing, so I have been doing a lot of things that I enjoyed, including reading, drawing, and watching TV with my girlfriend. And we also have a cat here. So I just spend the time on self-care and really enjoyed it.
Okay, thank you, Shi. Yeah, self-care is
Thank you.
super important, especially when you're in medical school. Okay, next I'll have Julian Alcantar speak.
Um, let's see. Hi everyone. My name is Julian. I don't know if everyone can see me. Can you see me, Sarah? Oh, okay, perfect. Um, I am not a current medical student, but I'm on the pathway to go on to medical school. I still have my MCAT to do and my application to do, but I've had a non-traditional route to go to medical school. I've participated in a postbac, which is a program you can participate in maybe if your grades aren't up to par or maybe you didn't have enough experience that you thought would make you a successful applicant. So I did that at UCSD. I also did my bachelor's, a BS in molecular biology at UCSD. Um, and I'm currently a lab assistant slash lab accessioner at Rady Children's Hospital in the Genomic Medicine Institute. So yeah, I'm still definitely participating in clinical activities. What I've done to keep sane during this pandemic is I love to cook. I've been cooking a lot. Definitely one of the things I enjoy. And then trying just to play a bunch of video games because that's what I like to do when I also have time. So yeah, so thank you.
Cool, thanks, Julian. And then last we have Dominique. Go ahead, Dominique.
Hey, hi everyone. I'm Dominique. I was born and raised in Los Angeles, and then I stayed in LA for undergrad, so I went to UCLA. I majored in biochemistry, and I took one gap year, so not too non-traditional. And then now I'm a first-year student at UCSD. That's kind of all I have to say about my bio. And then what I like to do to stay sane, I really like to read. The book I'm reading right now is amazing, The Water Dancer by Ta-Nehisi Coates. Quick shout out. And yeah.
So thank you for introducing yourselves and being here today. I guess I just wanted to start off. We all know it's really hard to navigate the university's systems, right? Just college in general. It's especially hard for just first generation students. So I just wanted to ask, and I don't know if you guys want to go on order in the way we introduce, so like Shi, Julian, and then Dominique, or whatever order you guys want to do. So my first question for the students, what challenges did you run into as you were in either undergrad or applying to medical school? And then how did you overcome those challenges?
Yeah, I think first of all, one thing for me was definitely the English part. It's not only how I can adapt to the daily life in the United States. It's also when I had to take MCAT because reading test was one important section of the MCAT. I actually took MCAT twice because the first time my reading score was really low. So the next time how I dealt with it was I actually spent some money on to take it like a professional teaching class. Those I think it was from Princeton to help me. And the next time I took it, it wasn't great, but it was like average score. Another thing that I did not really have was like a research experience, because at first, as I mentioned, I was in a community college. There was not much research going on. And there are some internship that goes on, like a national internship or a state internship, but that's like a paid job. And because I did not even have a green card at that time, so I cannot take a job. So when I transferred to Berkeley, I did not have much research experience. And as a transfer student, there were not many opportunities for me, because the professors want like freshmen, because a freshman can stay with them for 4 years and continue doing like longer projects. But what I did was just ask around. So finally, one PhD candidate who was also a transfer student was open for me. So she was actually okay for me. So I did like one project with her. But like after 1 year, she found a job in another institution. So she worked on her paper and graduated, and the project was terminated. When I applied into medical school, I actually did not have any publications. However, it is fine once you explain what you did, how you use your time in your application. So what I did was, although I could not do any research, I did a lot of volunteers. So my volunteer experience was pretty great, I would say. Sorry, that sounds. Yeah, sorry, my cat wants to go out. Yeah, so that's some of the challenges I experienced and how I overcome them. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Shi. Julian?
Hi, everyone. One of the challenges at least I've had trying to get or through my pathway to medicine really was my grades at the time. I had gone to university out of high school, but I had a lot of difficulties being a first generation former foster youth. I had a lot of issues with knowing what to do and how to navigate the system, and having those kind of difficulties kind of stack up on each other. So I had a lot of difficulties maintaining my academic grades, I guess, at that point. So a lot of my difficulties has been really just trying to fix that, because when I left my university the first time, I believe I had like a 1.7 GPA. Definitely nothing that could get you into medical school or anything for that matter. But since then, I have just consistently worked on doing as well as I could to establish a trend. A lot of the medical schools are going to look at trends, even though maybe initially your grades weren't that great in the beginning, but that they see a pattern of develop that you're trying to establish, that you've tried to always have an upward projection in terms of your grades. Many of the schools will definitely still consider you, even if it's not perfect. You don't have to be the perfect applicant, essentially. And that's why I participated in the post-bac. So post-bac is kind of a program you could get into. There's a few different kinds, but mine was an academic enhancer that specialized in making sure that you took upper division science courses along, or at least at UCSD, we had a medical school focused course that we took separate from the UCSD student population. But basically its goal was to prepare you academically to handle the rigors of medical school. So not only were you taking upper division science courses, but you were also taking a rigorous medical school focused course that was taught by a medical school faculty. So mostly that's the way I've been really trying to fix that issue I've had with navigating to medical school, is really just taking the time and applying to programs that would enhance my academic history, and provide me an opportunity to show that I would not only be prepared for medical school, but succeed. And mostly just trying to learn from my past mistakes as well. Maybe you'll find that studying, you don't know really how to study yet. These kind of programs will kind of help you kind of figure that out, try to establish a pattern that's more based on your success. So definitely a lot of reflection, a lot of things based on that. So those are the kind of things that I've done to help make me a better applicant in the coming future. So yeah, thank you.
Cool. Thank you, Julian. Yeah, that's something I think a lot of students have questions about, are like past grades, how they affect them. So thank you. Cool. Dominique, go ahead.
So I have definitely like experienced some of the same challenges as she and Julian. And there's like so many challenges when it comes to trying to get to medical school. I think focusing on my first like 2 years of undergrad, the biggest thing for me, my GPA was not very good, like at all. It was very, very low. And a big reason for that had to do with like mental health. Um, I came into college and I didn't like have any idea of what college was supposed to be like. And I guess my one idea of how college was supposed to be was that it was supposed to be hard and it was supposed to be tough. And like, I just had it so deeply ingrained in me that it wasn't supposed to be a good time, that like everything was supposed to be really challenging, that when things felt really challenging, I didn't really do much about it because I was kind of like, well, this is how it is. Like, this is, like exactly what you're supposed to expect. And I definitely should have like reached out and like sought out more opportunities like mentoring or like tutoring. I should have gone to office hours. Like there's so many little things that I should have done for myself, but I was just very like complacent because I was like, well, it sucks, but it's supposed to suck. So I would say that's a really big challenge, just like not really understanding that you can be happy in college, and really like taking the time and effort to ensure that you are happy while in college, even though you're working towards like med school and it's this big like scary process. Like it does not have to be miserable the entire time, and you should definitely like take care of your mental health and make sure that you are enjoying the route, because otherwise like there's a lot of burnout and it's just so much stuff to deal with, and it's not worth like sacrificing your mental health. So that I would say is like the number one thing that I wish I had known. Another big thing is that I just didn't really know what to do. I didn't decide that I wanted to go to medical school until sometime in my junior year, which is kind of, I guess, later than a lot of other people. So I guess when I finally decided that I wanted to go to medical school, I was like, well, I'm late. What do I do now? Like, I haven't really done anything like medical school related, and like my grades are poor and whatnot. And I will reiterate that like the trend does help you a lot. Like if your grades improve from freshman year to senior year, schools will take note. I don't think a single school that I applied to, my GPA was like average, but I got in because of the fact that like there was a trend, and I focused really hard on my MCAT. But other than that, you also don't have to do like a million and one things that are related to medicine. I like did a lot of tutoring and stuff like that, like volunteer tutoring, just because that's something I liked to do. And so I'm trying to say that like you can have other interests and like show other passions, and dedication to other passions also counts towards like a medical school application. And that's something that I didn't really understand. It's something that I was kind of like freaking out about when I decided to go to medical school like later on in college. But all the other stuff, or all the stuff that you do, like it still counts towards medicine. Yeah. And then also like clinical volunteering and stuff, and like clinical experience is important as well. But those were like two big challenges. I think I'm gonna stop there.
No, thank you. That's so funny because I had questions after this, but you guys like covered each one individually. That was good. You guys are somehow reading each other's minds, you're reading my mind. So wow, like I can kind of skip down to like the nitty-gritty stuff. Thank you for sharing, all of you. So I'll skip down. Since we were talking a little bit about volunteering and internships and research, that's one thing I think students struggle with is reaching out and finding that stuff. It's really hard sometimes to even just something as simple we say as networking, but it is actually really difficult. So if you can each kind of tell me or tell us more about any volunteering you did, like how did you find it? Did someone recommend you, or like did you find an internship? How did you find research? Anything that kind of helped you with your med school application, or even as Dominique was saying, just in general, like help you with your med school journey? So we can start with She.
Okay, sure. Let me think about it. Yeah, I totally agree with Dominic. There were some difficult times like connecting with people. However, what I did, so I think the most important thing for everyone to do is to step out of, his or her comfort zone. So what I did at first, basically, I would say like when I was in community college, I didn't do anything because there were no clubs, there were no like research going on. But what I did was, like Dominic, I did a lot of tutoring. It's basically what you enjoy. I have seen people keep to medical school with all kinds of different backgrounds. Like people did not even major in science. There were people who majored in music, people who majored in like English literature. So basically, as long as you can bring your passion or your own perspective to the application or to the program, I think they will, treat you valuably. So I think that said, the most important thing is each school wants to know how you manage your time, what you do with your time. So you can just say, I really enjoy playing games, so I played it day and night and reached the max level. You kind of have to like bring it related to your medicine experience. So what I did was also spend a lot of time. I was doing tutoring and also noticed like I noticed some students who went to my tutoring session were like me. They did not have health insurance. So actually there was one free clinic in Coachella Valley. So I found out about that and just started volunteering there. Other than that, I just sent out, I guess just send out, your resume or applications to a lot of people. To be honest, a lot of times it got turned down. When I was in Berkeley, it's so competitive. Everybody, like, there were so many people who wants to do medicine. So there is a free clinic there. There were like only 140 people applying for one position there just to volunteer. And of course, I got kicked out and didn't get the chance. However, what I did was send more applications sent to different hospitals. Of course, I got turned down a couple more times. However, eventually I did find one location, which is one hospital in San Francisco, which I had to take the BART and spend 30 minutes on the way. And it's not even working with a physician, it's working with a nurse in the like IV infusion session. So basically what I did was just stay there and accompany the patients, talk to them, chat with them when they're hungry, make noodle for them. But I put that in like my patient care experience. And also, like Dominic said, show your passion. So what I did in Berkeley was also I participated in a drama club. I was pretty into performance. So what we did was put on a different plays at the end of this each semester, and we raised some money and use it for charity. So it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have. Not everything has to be related to medicine or science or clinical stuff, but basically just show your passion. So how you manage time and make them understand like what kind of person you are. I think that's good enough. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Thanks, She. Julian?
Thank you.
Yeah, for volunteering and your experience that you're trying to get involved in could really be anything you make of it. I wouldn't really always go in with the focus of it being for your medical school application. You really should focus on the things that you also enjoy doing. Of course, you still have to have some experience with, why did you want to be a doctor? Did you get to work with a doctor? Did you get to work in medical care at all? That's still very important. But at the end of the day, you should also be volunteering in things that you really enjoy doing. And that can always be kind of redirected into medicine in some form or another. You have skills that you get all the time that are still very useful. So just keep that in mind. In terms of the things that I had done over the years, have been immeasurable amount of things. Mostly, I focused on doing work with underserved communities. I've done a lot of work with tutoring for students who are from underserved communities, whether that be as like an in-class tutor private tutoring, volunteer tutoring for health-based organizations that did a lot of different outreach styles. I've also had clinical experience at a hospital. One thing that's really, really available to the San Marcos community is the fact that Palomar Health has the Pathmakers internship, which I was a part of. It really is one of the best ways to get really involved in direct patient care. So I definitely took advantage of that. That's something that, being a school that's located really close to the Escondido Hospital, that you can all take advantage of. I definitely enjoyed it. One of the last departments I rotated in was the birth center, which I very, very much enjoyed, because you get to learn and interact with a lot more patients in a way that are more conscious and more receptive to you. Other volunteer experiences that I had done is like research. Definitely did research for a year or two. And then since I'm in a gap year, I also work in a clinical environment. But all of those experiences I got really were from just searching. I mean, part of it was just like, oh, I wonder if I could work in a hospital. Can I find something? So I looked it up, whether that's been through like a club on campus that I found the information linked to because they publish presentations as an example, or just walking around and asking other pre-meds like, oh, what did you do? Or how did you get involved in this way? A lot of it is definitely networking. You do want to talk to people, see what they're doing, see what other things you can do. One of my earlier clinical internships that I got was from just talking to an instructor and being told, hey, you could get involved in this because I saw what your interests were. And I saw that really aligned well with what I wanted to do. So I applied, and thankfully I got in. There are definitely things that I tried to do that I didn't get into. An example is UCSD has a free clinic, and as Shi-Tang kind of attested to, it's so popular to try to get some of those positions that you have over 100 people applying for one position, and you may not necessarily get it, but that's okay, right? The goal is to try something different and to keep going and never give up. That kind of resiliency is a key skill that you're developing anyway. So it's really just talk to people, get involved in just the little things, ask someone what they're doing, or go, like we have a student here trying to go to an event that really interests them, right? Those are the little things that really add up, that really get you something that you never even thought you would do, right? Because now you're talking to us and we have a wealth of experience and can direct you towards something you may not have considered. So these little things definitely add up. So keeping that kind of mentality in mind really gives you opportunities that you wouldn't think you would have normally gotten. And definitely it's what's gotten me a lot of the things that I've done, for sure. Just networking, asking somebody, hey, can I do this? Can I do that? That kind of stuff. So yeah, thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Julian. Like Dominique.
Yeah, so adding on to all of that, definitely will reiterate that, yeah, you like can't be afraid of rejection. Seeking out opportunities, like you're going to get a lot of like no's or a lot of being left on red, like no response, like it just happens. And you definitely can't take it personally, especially when it came to like research. Like I emailed so many different people and got like no responses a lot of the time, or like would get a response just for it to be no. Can't take it personally. Like it, most of the time it has nothing to do with you. It's just like it's at capacity, or it's a situation where a ton of people are applying to the same thing, and it's just, you know, they can't say yes to everyone. So you just have to keep sending more emails or like keep applying to other things. And also like with not being afraid to apply, like even if it seems like it's like a shot in the dark almost, I feel like 9 out of 10 times it's better to let someone else reject you than for you to like reject yourself in a way by not applying. Like, because who knows, like they might say no, which like, okay, same thing as if you didn't apply, but then if they say yes, then here you are with this opportunity that you otherwise wouldn't have had. So yeah, with that, I also, one of the biggest things that I did undergrad was I just had a campus job. Like I needed to work during undergrad. It had nothing to do with medicine. I worked in like selling tickets to like the sports games and performing arts stuff, like in the ticket office. But it's a job that I held for like all 4 years of campus. I like kind of got like promoted and stuff. But it's still like, it shows like professionalism if you have a job, or like time management, or like if it's a customer service job, then it's people skills. So again, like it doesn't have to be related to medicine, but just showing commitment to anything is good. I did research just emailing people. I scribed as an undergrad. I highly recommend that to like any pre-med. I feel like it's like some of the best clinical experience. It's like getting paid to shadow basically. And I learned a lot of stuff, like even like first year we've had like 3 blocks, and like every now and then I'm like, hey, like I know that from like I scribed in an emergency department. So I like saw a lot of stuff. It was a really great experience. You're like right underneath the doctors. I got like letters of recommendations from like the doctors that I worked with. So if you can find a scribing position, highly recommend. There's like the big companies for scribing, but then also sometimes hospitals like on their individual websites might have positions. I think that's a really great job. And then the last thing I will say is that also like if there's an experience that you like sign up for and then you don't like it, you don't have to like keep doing that. I like one of my volunteer things is actually volunteering in a hospital. And I kind of quit doing it because it like was just a miserable time. And like it had nothing to do with the fact that it was in a hospital. Like I, still want to do medicine. I'm in medical school, like has nothing to do with that. It was just like the way the program was set up and like the way my schedule was set up. It was just so inconvenient, and it was just like really frustrating to go. And so I stopped. Like, obviously you want to be like professional about it and everything like that, but don't like feel like you have to do everything that you're presented with. That also goes with like, try not to say yes to like everything, make sure it's something you really want to do first. But yeah, don't be afraid to like back down from something if it's just not something you want to do. Like you can try out an experience and then later decide that it's not for you. But yeah, just find some different things that you're passionate about. It doesn't always have to be medicine, and then show some commitment to it. And that's kind of like all you need. Don't be afraid of rejection. That's it.
Awesome. That's some awesome lasting advice. I feel like for med students in general, they just grab whatever's there, right? So it's good to choose what you all have been saying, something you're passionate about, something you care about, something you want to do. Awesome. So it's 5. Since we have 2 students here, I wanted to kind of open up the floor. Students, if you want to ask any questions, it could be about anything, experiences, more about specifics like research or internships. It could be about the application process. It could be about the MCAT, anything you can think of. So yeah, go ahead. If you want to, you can type it in the chat and I can read it out. I can ask the panel. And that way we can kind of get a dialogue going here. So Araceli, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I do. Every year med school, like what do you do? Like, is it all just like he said he's in his 4th year and they're doing clinical rotations. Like what are you doing the other first 3 years? Like what do you do in each year?
Yeah, so actually the first 2 years are mainly like lessons that you learn in a classroom. So the first year is like the basics. At least for UCSD School of Medicine, the first year is basically teaching you when everything is normal, how your body functions. And the second year is teaching you like when something is wrong, what is it called and how do you diagnose it, how to treat it. So the third year is actually your core clinical rotation. So basically you're rotating like different internal medicine, and also OB-GYN and psych and surgery. So basically you finish all those like core rotations in that 1 year. And since the first year, since you are applying to residency, that's when you pick a specialty. You actually got more time to pick like electives. So you can pick, for example, if you want to do surgery, in fourth year, you can do like general surgery rotations or trauma rotations or emergency medicine rotations. And if you want to do psych, so you have different like inpatient psych rotations, outpatient psych rotations. So this year is kind of weird. Usually, without COVID-19, people are allowed to travel to different institutions to do away rotations. Like if you think, for example, if you want to do like a program with your friend or practice near your home, you can actually go there to find a hospital. If they offer that, you can actually do a rotation there. However, this year everything has to be done in like UCSD because of COVID. We're not allowed to do any away rotations. So basically, after 2 years in classroom, the other 2 years are clinical rotations.
Cool. Dominique, do you want to talk about the first year a little bit?
Yeah, so our first year is just like a lot of lectures about different organ systems. Like we've done Foundations of Medicine, which was kind of just like biology, biochem topics. And then we did cardiology and pulm. And then now we're on GI. So we're learning about the digestive system. It's because of like COVID, all the lectures are kind of just like posted with the PowerPoints, and then you can just watch them whenever you want. And then we're also doing like anatomy. So we're still at UCSD, we're still doing anatomy in person. I think some schools kind of like cut it out for COVID, but we're doing anatomy. We're also doing histology. And then we also do like little like case-based learning type thing where like every week we like get a presentation of a patient and we discuss like their symptoms and what they're coming in with and different stuff like that. And then we also do occasionally some like practice. They're called Goskies, but they're like practice, like you're pretending, there's like an actor and you're like pretending to like interview them and do stuff like that. And then it's like very similar to second year. You don't do anatomy, and you're done with anatomy histology second year, but yeah, like she said, that's when you start learning more about like the diseases actually and like how to treat stuff. Because right now we're just learning like how things should be and stuff like that. And then yeah, I have no clue about third and fourth year, but
You will find out.
Yes,
that's not
eventually.
Bad. It's pretty
fun. Cool. Thank you, both of you. That was super informative. So Isabella has a question, and this one could probably go to Julian because I know he's looking at the MCAT. So would you be able to talk about the MCAT more, how to study for it, or when to study for it?
Yeah, so the MCAT's your admissions exam, which covers a variety of different topics, one of them being English or critical reading skills. You have your biology, biochemistry based section, your physics or physical sciences, which has chemistry, a little bit of organic chemistry, and then your psych-soc section, which is supposed to be more well-rounded with still an interpretive section, essentially. So it's gone through a few different revisions. I know for COVID, it was shortened, I believe, to 5 hours, but I think traditionally, or 4 hours, and traditionally it's a 7-hour exam, essentially. And basically how to study for it, it really just depends. Some people have studied for it after they've taken their core classes, in that case being like they've taken a general biology course and a general biochemistry course and their organic chemistry. And then some people will take courses that you pay for. I know like UCSD has a smaller course that you can take at the extension school that's, I think, 5 weeks. That gives you a little bit of an overview of the MCAT. And then some people self-study using the variety of different review textbooks that are available. Example being like Princeton Review or Exam Crashers and Kaplan, etc. If you decide to do maybe like a post-bac program, they'll actually include MCAT review and an overview of the MCAT and being prepared. So there's just a variety of different things you can do to kind of study for the MCAT. It's really going to depend on you because some of those things are self-motivated, that you take the time and you study on your own time, and that's with balancing school or balancing work. Me, as an example, I'm a full-time worker. So if I'm doing any studying, it's happening right after I get out home from work in that case, usually. and I'm using review books as an example to cover many of the topics that I see. But the AAMC also publishes material about what the MCAT covers. So there's also things you can look up through their comprehensive overview of the exam, because they're the ones who give out the exam, that you can read, oh, what's in this, or what topic should I be covering here and that. In terms of when to study for it, it really depends, because now there's so many different pathways to get into medicine. I think majority of the time, if you're trying to go without a gap year, you're taking your MCAT, I believe, as a junior. In that case, that might even be too late for that, if I'm misremembering or something like that. In my example, I'm taking it well after I'm done with school, while I'm working. So it really just depends on when you want to apply to medical school, because you have to realize that you're applying a year out, or roughly a year out. So you have to understand that depending on when you want to take your exam, it's going to be around the time that you need to apply for medical school, or you can take it even before that. I believe, I could be remembering wrong, that the exam itself lasts 5 years. I don't know if Shi Tang or Dominique can attest to the length of time that might be. But you can even take it before you even apply to school for a period of time. So it really just depends. It's kind of an open area when it comes to when and you want to study for it. So I don't know if Shi Tang wants to talk about it, or Dominique wants to talk more about the MCAT.
I can add. I think your score lasts for 3 years, but I'm not too sure about that either. And then, you have to take it. So if you're trying not to take a gap year, I think the absolute latest you could take it is like September so like the very, very beginning of your senior year. But then also, like, you would probably have to like double check with like the schools that you're applying to. I think most people would take it like by the summer of junior year if you're not taking a gap year. I took one gap year, and I took mine in like April of my senior year. I like had initially planned on taking it the summer between junior and senior year, but then I didn't think I was like ready. I was not ready. I didn't get like as much studying in as I had hoped. So I pushed my tests back. Also, don't be afraid to push your tests back. And then also, like, it's totally fine if you have to retake the MCAT. Like, so many people take the MCAT more than once. From like a financial perspective, it's, you kind of want to avoid it just because it's more money, but it's not going to like eliminate your chances of getting into medical school if you have to take it more than once. I studied for it on my own, and I studied like my winter quarter senior years when I studied for it. And I like purposefully, I think I only took like one class that quarter. And then I like carved out a lot of time in my schedule, like specifically to study for the MCAT. Because when I tried to do it over the summer, I was just really relying on like finding some time to study for it. And then I just never really found the time. So winter quarter, I kind of like built the time into my schedule, and that helped a lot. And then I studied for it on my own. I just used like the Kaplan books. The one resource that I think is like semi-essential is the AAMC stuff. Like all of the other like third-party review, like I don't really have too many opinions on. But the actual like AAMC like practice tests and like practice questions that they have are like hands down the most similar to the actual MCAT. They do cost money. I'm not sure if you qualify for a fee waiver, if those get reduced in price at all. They might. So you should look into that. But like if you're going to get any resource, I feel like that's like definitely the most representative of what's on the actual test. And that's it.
Awesome. That's super helpful. And you said can you say it again, the AAMC, right? Okay.
Yeah, that's the company that like makes the MCAT test.
Okay, cool. I will let the students know about that. Also, I looked up how long the MCAT results last. Depends on the school, but it says 2 to 3 years. So as long as you're in that range. Cool. Araceli, do you have any more questions? Or Isabella, you as well?
Maybe like the cost of medical school, like is there any financial help? Like how are you guys dealing with the cost and stuff?
Yeah, I can start. Actually, just to add on what Dominic was saying, get questions, practice on questions is really important for MCAT. Yeah, so the AMC practice questions was really worth it. So should definitely seriously consider about it. And totally agree with Julian. Like time is definitely one challenge in MCAT. It's not only how fast you have to answer questions. So my suggestion for that is when you do practice questions, make sure you time yourself. So make sure give yourself the pressure about the time and really feel the feeling of the time being pressured. Another thing is the time, like Julian said, the test is really long. So what my suggestion is and you're allowed to eat something like in between. So my suggestion is eating something like with high protein, because high protein is like energy that lasts longer. If you have some sugar, you eat that, then you feel energetic for a shorter period of time. But after that, you kind of like feel hungry or you may even feel sleepy, Sometimes when you have a dessert, you just get the sensation of like, oh, I just need a nap. So maybe that's something to consider as well. Okay, back to your question, sorry. Financial aid, yes. For me, I'm a first generation immigrant actually, and we do not have much savings. So actually there is not only scholarship, but also some financial aid. So the FAFSA, if you have applied it like for college, there is still a FAFSA for medical school, and depends on the situation. Actually, you can get a certain amount, and there is also loan that you can borrow for medical school students. Like UCSD is actually I think the interest rate is not too bad. So during medical school, you're not really required to start paying the interest. So after you graduate, there is a 1 year period grace period, which means you can just start paying back the money without paying any interest. I don't know if they change it, Dominic. You can add on that if you changed it. I guess it's also depending on the funding of the school. I know some people who went to private medical school, they actually have to borrow the money directly from the school, not from, like FAFSA. So the interest rate can be really high. And for maybe other programs, I know my girlfriend is a pharmacy student here. So for her program, actually she has to start paying the interest back every month, even during her training at school. So, but definitely you will get some financial aid from FAFSA.
Yeah, so I'll add for graduate school, like through FAFSA, the big difference is that you're not eligible for like any of the grants anymore. Like the FAFSA is applying for like government loans. So that's like the biggest thing. Like most grad school like funding that you're applying for or like seeing if you're eligible for is usually loans. One big thing that I did not know is that not every school offers like need-based aid. So there's the loans that you can apply for through the government. There's also loans you can get like from the schools. And then some schools offer like grant money, so free money that you don't have to pay back. But then sometimes it'll be like need-based aid. So just looking at like who's low income, like who like needs money. And then some of the grants will be merit-based. So that's just like, you have a really great application and we really want you to come here. So like, we'll give you money. Not every school will give need-based aid, which that was like important for me because like, yeah, need-based aid, if you need it, you need it. But I didn't know that. And it's also like not even like the use, like it's not consistent among schools. So like you just have to check each school individually because like even some of the UCs like give need-based aid, UCSD is one of them, but then some of the other UCs don't. So it's like, it's really weird. what was I going to say about that? Yeah, I guess you really have to like check every school individually because there's no like consistent way. You can also definitely email, like when you're applying, like email the financial aid office at whatever school you're like you have questions about, and they will definitely like get back to you and let you know. There's one other thing. I'm forgetting what I wanted to say. I'm forgetting. Sorry. But yeah.
No worries. We can always circle back. I hate that feeling of like almost knowing. Julian?
I have something to say, yeah. In terms of like actually applying to schools, I already had typed it in, but just to reiterate, is that AMC does have a fee assistant program that as long as you hit the income threshold with you or your family, I think it does take in consideration your parents. That it can reduce the cost of the MCAT. I believe the MCAT costs $325, which is no small fee, but it reduces it to $125, I believe. So that's definitely helpful. And I believe you can apply to 15 schools for free, which is super fantastic. It also waives most of your secondary application fees because for medical school, not only do you have to initially apply to a school, but you also have to apply essentially again in a small way. And those secondary application fees also are fees. And so the fee assistance program will help waive some of those costs. So it really just depends. If you're applying with none of that involved, it can be, for some students, thousands of dollars. With the fee assistance program, it can definitely reduce your costs by a whole lot. So it's definitely to your advantage to take a look at it and see what the requirements are. AMC does have their website, and it does kind of list all the requirements for that program, but it also has a lot of different information about the MCAT and about applying to medical school in general. So I would definitely take advantage of looking through that website and finding what information interests you. Thank you.
No, thank you. It's super, super helpful. I know financial aid is a big thing. Finances in general are a big thing for students. So thank you for answering that. Are there any other questions? Oh, go ahead.
I remembered what I was going to say. It was about DACA students specifically, because that's like another thing that you have to look up, that's school by school, because I think like if you're a DACA recipient, you're not eligible for federal funding or something like that. And then also like certain schools will offer like funding for DACA students and certain schools won't. I don't know all of the schools off the top of my head, but yeah, definitely like if you're a DACA student, your pool for like schools that offer funding like shrinks a lot, unfortunately. But just like double check on the school's website and like email the financial aid office.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's like the number one thing. Always email the financial aid office. They know a lot more. Okay. Any other questions? Araceli or Isabella? No? Okay. I guess I will ask a question. Has anyone here heard of imposter syndrome? Panelists or students? Yes. So maybe we can talk about that. So if you don't know what imposter syndrome is, it's literally you feel like all your success is not based off of your personal talent, your hard work. It's based off of pure luck. You think to yourself, how did I even get here? I don't even belong here. This is not who I am. Literally you feel like an imposter. So most people go through it. I will say a lot of students feel it. So my question to the panelist is, have you ever felt that way with anything during your journey to med school? Or have you seen that maybe in your peers, maybe in your coworkers, maybe people you've worked with in internships or in research? Just have you seen imposter syndrome and have you felt it?
I can answer that because I have a very specific story, but definitely like with applying to medical school, like there's all of this, like it can be very toxic at times, especially like with how you view yourself and like how critical you are of yourself. And like when you're applying, at least for me in my experience, like I feel like you're never going to feel like 100% like this application is good and I'm going to get into medical school. Like you're never going to be at 100%. And if you like continually strive to get to like 100%, you're going to end up like never applying, because you're always going to feel like there's something you could do better, like some essay that could be better. Like you're never going to feel like the best about it, and you're your own biggest critic, and the way that you judge yourself is a lot harder than like other people will judge you. And for me specifically, like it was after my entire like application cycle, and like after I had gotten into schools and like stuff like that, I think I was like answering questions for a friend of mine who was going to apply. And so I was looking over my application again, like, yeah. And I found myself thinking like, oh, wow, like this application sucks. Like, I'm not going to get into school. And this is after I was accepted to like medical school. And I was like sitting there looking at my application, like, oh my goodness, like who's going to let me in? So it's like, to a certain degree, you just have to like get comfortable with the idea that like, you're always going to feel a little bit like you're not good enough. You definitely like want to be practical about like, what are the things that I can do to make my like application like as good as I can. But you definitely like have to let go of the perfectionism and like looking to see, or like you have to let go of the thought that like you're gonna produce some like stellar application that you're gonna be like completely happy with. Like yeah, I don't know. Like you have to ignore your inner critic like to a certain extent, because literally there will always be something to critique. And so just after a certain point, when you've done everything that you can do, you just have to like trust it and go for it. But yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely reiterate that you're never going to feel like this is it. Like you're never going to feel like everything is just finally perfect. Um, and no matter what experience I found myself into, I also did feel like, hey, I can't believe I did this. This doesn't feel right. Like I don't belong here. There's always something that popped up where someone did something a little bit better, or something was that I felt was more unique than what I had to bring to the table. And it always makes you doubt. It's always a little bit of something that makes you kind of falter. Um, and really, you're never going to feel like this is it, this is perfect. And maybe some people do. I really can't speak on that part of it, but I've never felt like this is like I'm ready to do this. And I think that's an important thing, because that can make you freeze and do nothing instead. And if your goal is to try something new and to get ahead, or to try to apply to medical school, or do the MCAT, or do something this, that, or the other, if you're always doubting yourself, you're going to freeze, and that's not good. The best you can do is just the best you can do, right? And that doesn't always have to be 101%. That could just be the 80% that you have, that you can give that day. And the best thing you can do is just kind of support yourself the best you can. And sometimes maybe you need to be around people who just know you a little bit more. Or in my case, I rely on my relationship really to kind of push me forward, to remind me that I'm okay. Like this is normal. What I'm experiencing is normal. And that's important to kind of keep pushing forward, and just kind of deal with it as it comes. You can't always anticipate everything. So just trying to keep that in mind, just move the best you can forward, even if it's not always feeling 100%.
That's really beautifully said, both of you. I totally agree with Dominic and Julian. I would say medicine in general is a humbling career. Like every day you have some experience that teach you something new. So actually last week, I just worked with a doctor who practiced for 30 years. He's actually the chief of the department. When he was doing like a joint injection, he kind of missed it the first time. Even for him, after 30 years of practice, still there is some space for mistakes. He's still not perfect. And what he did was admit it to the patient and also to me, and just acknowledge the fact that actually nobody is perfect. So during the application process, I would say just do your best and enjoy the ride. Do not think too much. Do not give yourself too much stress. Okay, because everyone is unique. Just show you as a person. Because even weakness is a part of ourselves. Everybody have to acknowledge that in order to get better. So just do not give yourself too much stress and continue learning.
Wow, you guys are amazing. This is great. Well, it's almost 5:30, so one last chance for questions, but that last part was great. I feel like everybody feels that imposter syndrome, and it does pop up, like you all said, at times where you're like, why do I feel this way? As Dominique said, I'm already in the program. So yeah, thank you for that. Seriously, that was great. But yeah, any final questions? All good? Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming to our panelists. I appreciate you all so much. Students, thank you so much. If you're watching this, thank you for watching this. I will actually, if the panelists are okay, we'll talk. But if any students want to contact our panelists, I can give you their professional email. You can ask them, any questions, or maybe there's a specific question you have. So we'll definitely connect you. As Julian said, all these three panelists are well connected, and they are there for others. They want to see other people succeed. We all want to see you succeed. And if you're a pre-med, pre-health student, it is a long journey, but it is very worth it. As Shi-Tang said, it's very humbling. And we want to make sure you have connections to people who can be there to support you on this journey. So thank you once again. Just let me know if you have any questions, and I'll try and connect you guys with the panelists. Cool. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for having me.